In my initial medical training as a Western doctor, like all medical students, I was taught to see the body as these various separate organ systems: the brain, the heart, the skin, the gastrointestinal system, etc., etc. We see this in the way our medical system is set up. We have specialists for each particular organ: a cardiologist, a dermatologist, a rheumatologist, a psychiatrist. But I realized early on that the body does not work like that, and that you cannot separate the body into isolated separate parts. This reductionist model does not take into account that everything is connected, that all the organs are talking to each other. By just addressing an issue in a particular organ system, we often miss all the other connecting pieces and other areas that are affected. And what often ends up happening is patients often go to 3 or 4 different specialists with different systems, all stemming from the same problem. So I want to teach you a much healthier and effective way of understanding disease processes. It comes from the functional medicine model. Functional medicine is a science-based approach to medicine that addresses the underlying causes of disease and relies on improving function rather than on medicating symptoms. Functional MDs sometimes prescribe conventional medications, but whenever possible, we rely on natural treatments like dietary changes, lifestyle management, herbs, and supplements to help restore the body's own natural ability to heal. If you look at the functional medicine tree, you see that in Western medicine, we go to the specialist that deals with a particular organ when we have the symptoms in a particular organ system, which are the leaves and branches in the tree. We go to the dermatologist for eczema, the ENT for sinusitis, and the pulmonologist for asthma. But what we do in functional medicine, we look for the underlying imbalances or dysfunctions lower down in the trunk. For instance, inflammation or detox dysfunction or mitochondrial dysfunction. This is because these dysfunctions can present with symptoms in many different organ systems. As an example, let's take inflammation. Inflammation can present as heart disease, asthma, arthritis, eczema, or even depression. Each of these symptoms would send you to a different specialist in Western medicine, and each of the specialists would probably give you a drug to suppress a particular symptom or symptoms in that particular organ. In functional medicine, we try to address a problem lower down in the trunk and ultimately look at the roots to look for the cause. Because if we deal with the root causes, it often takes care of the dysfunction or imbalances in the trunk, which are causing the symptoms in the leaves. So to prevent disease, we need to look lower down than the leaves, at the trunk, where the disease processes start. And ultimately, as I just said, we need to look at the root causes of those dysfunctions and eventual diseases and try to deal with or address those root causes. Most of these dysfunctions have been discussed in previous lectures in this course, so I'm not going to go into them in any detail. But it is important to understand that to prevent disease, we need to correct these underlying dysfunctions before they become diseases. I just want to mention 6 dysfunctions briefly because they are so important. They include digestive dysfunction, a sluggish detox system, inflammation, mitochondrial dysfunction, hormonal imbalance, and neurotransmitter imbalance. Let me briefly explain each of them. Firstly, digestive dysfunction. Taking care of your digestive system is one of the most important things you can do for your health, as it is a precursor of so many diseases that occur in other parts of the body. A well-functioning digestive system will energize you, help your immune system, and generally prevent all sorts of diseases. It will make you feel more vital. From my experience, digestive dysfunction is often the precursor to all sorts of diseases, from allergies to autoimmune diseases, to anxiety and depression, and many skin disorders. Next up, sluggish detox system. As I described in my lecture on detox, the body has its own innate detox systems in many of our organs, such as the liver, the gut, brain, skin, kidneys, and lungs. When these are not functioning properly, you get a buildup of waste products and toxins, which over time can lead to all sorts of problems, from neurological issues, pulmonary problems, and even cancer. Optimizing the function of these delicate systems is essential for optimal health. Let's talk about inflammation now, another key dysfunction. When you think of inflammation, you usually think of a swollen ankle after twisting it, or an inflamed pimple on your face, common problems that heal within a few days or weeks. Inflammation is something that occurs naturally in your body, but when it goes wrong or goes on for too long, it becomes chronic inflammation, and it can trigger many disease processes. As mentioned by both Dr. Piedra and Dr. Shah, chronic inflammation is a slow, silent disturbance that never shuts off. It is an underlying dysfunction for so many life-altering conditions and diseases, such as autoimmune disorders, heart disease, diabetes, obesity, and even cancer. It's also thought to play a significant role in neurological problems like Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's, and even depression. It is a primary culprit behind so many of the common health problems we suffer with today, from aches and pains to sleep issues to brain fog and fatigue. Mitochondrial dysfunction is another important dysfunction. In order for your organs to function properly, they require energy, and that energy is produced by the mitochondria. Mitochondria are the tiny factories in each of our cells that turn the food we eat and the oxygen we breathe into energy. This energy fuels every biological process, from the firing of your brain cells to the beating of your heart. With mitochondrial dysfunction, we are more prone to a number of diseases, including premature aging, obesity, type 2 diabetes, and neurodegenerative disease. But the opposite is also true. When intracellular communication is improved, the aging process slows down, and overall health and vitality improve. So optimizing mitochondrial function is extremely important for health and disease prevention. Hormonal balance is also important. All your hormones work together like a symphony orchestra. When one instrument is out of tune, it throws off the whole orchestra. If the horn section is too loud, the violins may go off course as well. If the oboe misses a cue, the entire piece sounds wrong, no matter how well the rest of the ensemble is playing. To achieve hormonal balance, we always have to look at the entire hormonal symphony and make sure that every hormone is coming in at the right level and in the right relationship to all the others. When one hormone is off, it can set off all sorts of problems. And lastly, neurotransmitter imbalance. Balancing the neurotransmitters released by the sympathetic and the parasympathetic halves of the nervous system can prevent many of the diseases brought on or made worse by stress. The sympathetic nervous system regulates the stress response and causes the release of energizing and excitatory neurotransmitters, whereas the parasympathetic nervous system regulates the relaxation response and causes the release of calming neurotransmitters. When these neurotransmitters are out of balance, it is often a factor in so many of the chronic diseases we see today. Now, that was a very short overview of some of the key dysfunctions that often need to be addressed in disease prevention. But as I said earlier, to correct these dysfunctions, we need to look at the roots, the causes of these dysfunctions, to ultimately prevent disease.